If you were politically conservative in the 80s, you really had to be a critical thinker because there was no Fox News, there was no Newsmax. Talk radio was filled with liberals. All the mainstream media, just like today, were filled with liberals. So you would have to listen to them, take the news out of context, feed you their lies and decipher the truth. There was no social media. Then one day I remember I was in the Navy, I think it was 1988 maybe, and I'm listening to the radio in my car, seeing, okay, what do these libs have to say? And I hear this funny guy giving a conservative point of view on politics. And I was like, this is odd. It was the first time I heard Rush Limbaugh. He was brand new. I think that was like his second day on the air. And Rush blew up because he was saying everything us blue-collar guys, us military guys, cops, firemen, just regular guys were saying for years. And he was saying it in a much more articulate way and in a very funny and entertaining way. So Rush Limbaugh blew up. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these conservative talk show hosts showed up. And a lot of them I would listen to, I was like, something just don't seem right. Like, is this guy really a conservative? I can't figure him out. And then they just started repeating everything Rush Limbaugh was saying. And I was like, okay, I guess, this is entertainment. It's radio like TV. They're going to copy success. And then Rush made it clear to me when one day on the radio, he said, you would be surprised how many radio show hosts are not really conservative, but for ratings, they come across and pretend to be a conservative. He's saying most of the guys on the radio are fake conservatives. And I like, what a grift. And I'm like, these guys are grifters. They're doing it for the money. They have no beliefs. Maybe they're liberals. Maybe they're apolitical. Maybe they could care less about politics. They're just good talkers and they want to make a buck. And I realized, wow, most of these guys are grifters. A lot of people are wondering, and a lot of people are like pleasant, wow, you sending me emails, oh, check this out, you'll be pleasantly surprised. This guy is supporting Pope Leo, this guy is supporting Pope Leo. All the trads, except one, and I'm going to name him in a minute and give you my opinion why he isn't. All the trads, seeing the Rad-trads that hated Pope Francis, are supporting Pope Leo. And it's kind of odd because Pope Leo talked about Pope Francis like he's going to canonize him. If it wasn't against canon law to bet on these things, I would bet. I'd bet the house Pope Leo is going to make Pope Francis a saint. But he talked about Pope Francis, and when you learn about Pope Leo, you see he loved Pope Francis. They got along really well. He said he was continue the synodality, the synod way that Pope Francis started, which all these Rad-trads hated. He went and prayed before the tomb of Pope Francis. This guy, I'm surprised he didn't take the name Pope Francis II. So why do these Rad-trads love him? They'll find things that they like about him, but he's no different. He's really, in his beliefs, in his doctrines, in his teachings, no different than Pope Francis. So what is it? Again, when Pope Francis became Pope, these same people were talking highly of him in the beginning. And then at one point it turned with a couple guys, and then you've seen their channels blow up, and then all these Rad-trads started copying each other. Like, they were bending over backwards to say what the other guy was saying in a different way. Like nobody had their original thoughts about Pope Francis. Everybody was just copying everybody and just saying all these horrible things about Pope Francis. And all their channels exploded. So now I'm praying for their conversion because I believe the words of Pope St. Pius X that these guys all look up to, when he said, you cannot be holy and dissent from the Pope. These guys might not be teaching heresies, so they're not heretics. They may be in union with the Pope, so they're not schismatics, but they're dissenting from him. They're not following his teachings, when they dissented from Pope Francis. And when they slander the Pope, they violate canon law 1404 and 1373. So there's a lot they do wrong, without being schismatic heretics. So I'm praying for their conversion, because if you dissent from the Pope, you cannot be holy, according to St. Pius X, who I believe is telling the truth, great saint of the church. So in the beginning, like I said, everybody was on board with Pope Francis, and right now everybody's on board with Pope Leo. They're all copying each other, except for one. And I respect that one man more than all of those guys. And in fact, I actually like the guy. I mean, we disagree vehemently about Pope Francis and now about Pope Leo. But everybody else coming like, oh, we're going to give him a chance. He spoke Latin. He came out with the fancy vestments that we all love. This guy right out of the gate was like, he was brought in by the gay mafia, or the Sangala mafia, whatever they call those guys. Right out of the gate, this was rigged. This is Pope Francis's guy. He didn't give him a chance, So I give that guy props because he's consistent. You see, Rush Limbaugh was a true conservative on the radio, and there was a lot of grifters copying him for the money and for the ratings. But I believe this gentleman who hates Pope Leo as much as he hates Pope Francis, and maybe he doesn't hate him, he hates the way he is, I probably is the right way to say it. He's consistent, These other guys, why are they doing this? So I believe this man, I'm going to give you his name in a minute. I'm going to give you a few hints, and then I'll give you his name. I respect this man, and I actually like him personally. And I know I like him personally because I actually interviewed him twice when I was doing the live streams. I did 2 live streams with him. And I'll give you a hint. He will let you know that he's the king of his castle. But I observed with my own 2 eyes and my ears that he treats his wife like a queen. Like every wife should be treated by their husband. So he gets a bad rap for his traditional view of marriage. And he's very confrontational. It's just his nature. There's different personality types. There's a real laid back, non-confrontational types, and then there's a confrontational types. He's very confrontational by nature. So some people think he's not a nice guy, and I can tell you personally, he's a very nice guy. And although I totally disagree, I mean, we are separated like the opposite of the night from the day on our view of Pope Francis and Pope Leo. We had things we agreed on. In fact, politically, I thought he was brilliant, and I even told him, and I don't know if he thought I was crazy because we were doing this through text, that he should run for Congress. And I actually had a political strategy for him, and I still have it if he wants to do it. I'm pretty good at those things. Run as a conservative Republican in his area, he would definitely win it. There's no doubt in my mind. But he has a big family, so I'm sure, being the kind of man he is, he wants to keep his attention with his family. So if you haven't guessed it already, it's Timothy Gordon. Right out of the gate, the first day when the white smoke went up and we knew it was Pope Leo, he bashed him. And the next day he bashed him. Even though all his friends are giving Pope Leo a chance and they're all talking highly about him because it's, I guess you call it the zeitgeist. They know in their echo chamber, like, this is the cool thing now. This is what's accepted. Tim Gordon's he's Tim Gordon. he ain't fitting in with, when they start bashing it, they'll fit in with him. He's not following them. So I give him props for that. I disagree with him on that. I think he's wrong, but I respect him that he says what he means and he means what he says. He's a stand-up guy. That's a stand-up guy, straight shooter, as we call him in Jersey. So I just think it's a matter of time before the zeitgeist changes with the Rad-trads, and slowly the more popular ones will start bashing Pope Leo and the other ones will follow, and then that'll be the cool thing. But, pray for him. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. They maybe could have had a conversion overnight and said, wow, he's just like Pope Francis, but Pope Francis was holy. Who knows? But I'm guessing it's like Rush Limbaugh said. They seen there was money to be made being a conservative on radio, so all these fake conservatives, like I heard news guys that I heard on regular news, and I know they weren't conservative, on local radio, all of a sudden they're conservative. And I actually called in and got through with a couple of them and really shut them down and so, but that's a whole different story. But I think these Rad-trads are the same way. In their zeitgeist, in their echo chamber, when it was popular to bash Pope Francis, they were like seeing who could bash him the most. They would interview each other. They would never have guys like me on, guys like Lofton and guys that, love the Pope, Catholic for Rednecks. They always have each other. It was like an echo chamber. Just like the libs on the media. They don't interview conservatives. They only want their point of view. So, but I could be wrong. But again, I give props to Timothy Gordon. Like I said, I totally disagree with how he treated Pope Francis. I totally disagree of his view of him. But at least he's forthright and he tells you what he's thinking. I don't think he's trying to win any friends. He's just telling you what he believes. And to me, being a guy from Jersey, I respect that because that's how people from Jersey are. We're going to tell you like it is. My sister used to say, say what you mean what you say, but just don't say it mean. But sometimes it comes across mean to people, if they disagree with you. So anyway, I thought that was in it. I was thinking about this today, and I just wanted to share it for what it's worth. Pray for those that bashed Pope Francis, and now they're praising Pope Leo, that they don't change and go back to their old ways, that they stick with this newfound love of the Pope. That again, Pope St. Pius X said we should all love the Pope, and we shouldn't ask the Pope to explain it better because we didn't understand them. It was a little ambiguous. This is Pope Pius X. Read his letter to the priests about how to love the Pope. So hopefully they learn how to love the Pope the way Pope Pius X told us, and they respect the Pope as the guardian of dogma, like Pope Pius X said. And we respect Jesus and we believe Jesus when he said, you are Peter the rock, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail. God bless and stay Catholic.